Good afternoon. Seemed to work. Welcome to the 2016 Department of Energy's Annual Merit Review and Peer Evaluation Meeting, also known as the AMR by numerous stakeholders from around the world. For the last several years, two offices from within the sustainable transportation sector, namely the Vehicle Technologies Office and the Fuel Cell Technologies Office, have jointly held the AMR for projects funded by their respective offices with roughly 1,800 people in attendance. I'm Ruben Sarkar, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Sustainable Transportation, and this afternoon I have the privilege to serve as your MC. As a reminder, this is not a conference, though it may appear to be one. It's a merit review and a peer evaluation meeting of specific projects that we fund. But due to the cutting-edge research and progress that we've presented, it attracts hundreds of people and researchers from around the world. And so now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our first speaker, the Acting Assistant Secretary for Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, David Friedman. As the Acting Assistant Secretary, David Friedman leads the roughly $2 billion per year Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, EERE, within the U.S. Department of Energy. He has been an influential sustainable transportation and clean energy technology expert for more than 2 decades. His activities have included service on several committees, including the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, and the President's Hydrogen and Technical Advisory Committee, or HTAC. Before joining EERE, Dr. Friedman served as both the Deputy and the Acting Administrator of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, where he led the agency's mission to save lives, prevent injuries, and reduce economic costs due to road traffic crashes. Additionally, Dr. Friedman worked for 12 years at the Union of Concerned Scientists in several different capacities, engaging in research and policy issues regarding conventional fuel economy technologies, mass size and safety interactions, and the energy and environmental benefits and impacts of hybrids, battery, and fuel cell electric vehicles. Please join me in welcoming David Friedman.
No, I guess I can't move around too much because if I move this way, you'll get an even more entertaining speech than normal. So thank you so much for that, Ruben. And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the 2016 Annual Merit Review. This is a really fantastic opportunity, and it's really great to see each and every one of you here. There's way too many really smart minds when it comes to transportation in one room. It's quite impressive. Before I jump in, I'd like to say just a couple of words to acknowledge a few different people here. I'll say more about him when I pitch it over to him to speak after I'm done, but I do want to pay a special welcome to Senator Dorgan for joining us today. He's a true leader when it comes to clean transportation and especially hydrogen, and so I'm really excited and thankful to have him here again this year in order to share his really, I think, important, critical, and unique perspective on where clean energy is headed. I also want to acknowledge some of our leaders here at the Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. It's always a mouthful. First off is Ruben Sarkar. Ruben, I think, is an amazing leader who has really done a fantastic job charting a vision for our sustainable transportation efforts, really laying out that vision, mapping how we're going to achieve that mission, and executing a plan day in, day out so that we can truly transform transportation in the United States. I'm lucky to have him. I'm also very lucky to have Sunita Satyapal, one of our really talented and truly steadfast leaders when it comes to hydrogen and fuel cell technologies. I've known Sunita for many years, and I've never seen anyone who can go through, around, and on the side of a brick wall as well as Sunita can. Truly happy to have her here. I also want to acknowledge Christy Cooper and Dave Howell, who've really stepped up over the last year to lead our Vehicle Technologies Office. And of course, I really want to thank everyone at the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy in Ruben's office who have helped make this event and frankly all the great work that EERE does on transportation happen for not just this year, but for many decades past, and I'm sure many more in the future. Now, for myself, coming to the Department of Energy from the Department of Transportation, and after really spending about 25 years of my life focused on the transportation sector and sustainable energy more broadly, I've got to confess, it's a fantastic feeling. It's a great opportunity for me to be able to stand in front of each and every one of you to talk about where we can go when it comes to transportation and all the great work that the Department of Energy is doing in this space. It's truly a thrill, and it's really an honor. Now, every year at this review, it's a great opportunity to showcase the results of the investments we've put in for taxpayers and to put them to the test, to really ensure that those investments are delivering significant value for those taxpayers who make this work possible each and every day. Now, if you look across this room and if you look across the AMR itself, we expect nearly 2,000 people here this week. Some of the brightest scientists, engineers, researchers, and analysts, not just from the United States, but from around the world. And through them and through our folks at EERE, you will hear the status of new and emerging technologies in our portfolio. You'll hear about the latest and greatest breakthroughs and progress in the R&D community on these critical technologies. And I just want to pause for a moment here to thank the more than 350 reviewers who are here today to dig in deep and make sure that the projects that we're doing are delivering value. You take a significant amount of time to provide your thoughtful feedback and your recommendations, and we just couldn't do the work that we do without you. Now, for all of you, you're getting to see and get a taste, touch, and feel of critical cutting-edge research here this week, many of which isn't even ready yet for publication. So you're getting, in many cases, a sneak preview of that cutting edge. And so we really rely on these reviewers to deliver outstanding technical expertise and an unbiased view to help us move ahead. Your feedback is truly invaluable, so thank you all very much for being here. And the fact is, not just our reviewers, but each and every one of you out there, we need you. We need you because transportation offers us an amazing opportunity to tackle both our climate and energy challenges as we use advanced vehicle technologies, fuel cells, and hydrogens to deliver our vision of a 21st century transportation system. A transportation system that can potentially be unlike what we've seen for the last 100 years if we do the right work, if we dig in with R&D, and if we break down barriers that are in the marketplace in front of that future. Now, as the largest government investor in clean energy research and development in the world, to the tune of about $2 billion a year, that is exactly what the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy is here to do. Basically, when it comes to energy efficiency and renewable energy, we are the solutions people, and we rely on all of you to turn those solutions into reality. And the fact is, right now, there's never been a more exciting time for clean energy. We've rapidly seen a range of technologies drop in cost across the board and rise in the market over the last 7 years, creating what I would say is a true clean energy revolution. Revolutions in technology that were science fiction 10 years ago, but are market reality today. If we just look back at the data, since the beginning of this administration, solar costs have dropped more than 60%, with solar installations up more than 2,000%, shattering the 20 gigawatt barrier. Wind power has tripled since 2008 and now exceeds 70 gigawatts, while the costs of wind power have dropped by 40%. Battery costs, a lot of the work that you all have done, have helped drive those costs down by 70%. At the same time as market shares have increased rapidly. Highly efficient LEDs have dropped in cost by 90%. Long ago have we passed the days when you should debate whether or not to go with a compact fluorescent or incandescent. Walk by them both in the store because LEDs are cost effective, they last longer, and they deliver better quality of light. Thanks to a lot of the great R&D that we've done at ERE and industry has moved on. As a result, we've got over 80 million installed light bulbs today. So when you step back, I like to paraphrase the Beatles when we look at where technology has gone. You say you want a revolution? Well, together we are changing the world when it comes to energy efficiency and renewable energy. Thank you, plant. I mean, no, just kidding. Now, the reality is, though, even with this clean energy revolution underway, we've still got a lot of work to do, and I think you all know that. We have today about 7.3 billion people on the planet, but that's potentially going to rise to nearly 10 billion by 2050, with the majority of those folks in the developing world. And that means more people across the world hungry for lifestyles like ours, hungry for lifestyles that involve more energy use, more transportation, and potentially a lot more cars on the roads around the world. That only ramps up the importance of the work that each and every one of you is doing to not only make that clean energy revolution a reality, but to make it even bigger, make it even bolder, and make it last even longer. Because at the same time, our top scientists are telling us that we must reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 80% by 2050, just in order to avoid the worst consequences of climate change. And so over the next few years, we must accelerate our R&D pipeline like we've never seen before in order to move more and more technologies into the market where it can make great and lasting impact. Now, fortunately, we've had some important news on this front. Last November, we had President Obama stand up with 19 other world leaders and pledge to double their nation's investment in clean energy technology through an initiative called Mission Innovation. It's an incredible initiative that's also backed by the private sector. Folks like Bill Gates and others who've said they are going to put their own money on the table in order to invest earlier in technologies, in order to take bigger risks, in order to accelerate those technologies into the marketplace. Because that's the kind of progress that we need. Now, we've also seen even more recent progress. Just last week, I was at both the Clean Energy Ministerial and a meeting of the members of Mission Innovation. And there were a couple of things that really stood out to me when it came to that meeting. First of all, pardon the pun, but the energy in that room was incredible. And I would argue in many ways it was renewable. You saw people at the table who wanted to get things done, who wanted to find ways to work together, who wanted to build bridges to get more renewable energy technology, more sustainable transportation technology, not only out of the R&D labs, but into their countries around the world. Why? Because they see the opportunity. This clean energy revolution, this opportunity to address climate change and our energy challenges is a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity that we have to seize if we're going to ensure that in the United States, we continue to lead and gain the advantages and the opportunities that this clean energy revolution represents. A clean energy revolution that, as Secretary Moniz talked about, is underway. In fact, he said last year the world pledged to act on climate. This, in talking about the Clean Energy Ministerial and frankly all the work that you're doing, is how we're going to keep those promises. And the consensus on that was broad and deep around the world. Now, a big part of how we're going to meet those goals is through transportation. Transportation, as you all know, affects each and every one of us, especially lately, those of us commuting in and out of DC. Hope none of you were stuck on the metro this morning. Not so fun. Now, on-road vehicles alone accounted for about 70% of US petroleum usage. They accounted for about 1/6 of household expenses and nearly 1/3 of our energy-related carbon emissions. When it comes to climate and energy use, our transportation sector has a big footprint. And changing the way we travel offers one of our best opportunities to meet our climate and energy goals while at the same time strengthening our economy. And we can't repeat that over enough. The opportunity to address climate change and energy use comes with a stronger economy if we make the right investments today and going into the future. And when it comes to transportation, a new approach can help speed goods to market, expand transportation options, and integrate new technologies like self-driving vehicles while at the same time reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, cutting carbon pollution, and strengthening our resilience in the impact of climate change, all while creating new, innovative industries. I mean, frankly, when you look at the fact that we live in the age of Uber, Lyft, Google, and Tesla disrupting incumbents, the sector needs to embrace innovation, and I think we're seeing that throughout OEMs more and more every day. And hopefully we're helping to fuel more and more of that innovation, both in the incumbents and in the new entrants. And that's why President Obama has called for a 21st century clean transportation system, one that aims to increase our investments in clean energy transportation infrastructure by roughly 50%. Because you can make all the great technologies in the world, but if there's no infrastructure there to support it, consumers aren't going to be able to take advantage of it. And at the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, we're doing our part to create that 21st century transportation future. You're going to hear a lot more about all the details of the great work that we're doing throughout the day today, but I did just want to highlight at least a couple of examples of that great work. Now, you all may already be familiar with our SuperTruck program, which set out to improve the fuel efficiency, the freight efficiency of Class 8 tractor trailers. Now, we had a major breakthrough when Daimler Trucks of North America announced that its Freightliner SuperTruck demonstrated a 115% improvement in freight efficiency over their baseline truck. Great example of innovation. That more than doubled the goal of a 50% improvement in efficiency. And that builds on accomplishments announced from the Cummins and Peterbilt team that demonstrated a 76% increase in freight efficiency. Now, we're still looking forward to the results later this year from our two other teams at Navistar and Volvo, but we are not standing still. We have already announced that we're going to move forward with SuperTruck 2, where we're going to enshrine the goal of doubling the fuel efficiency of our 18-wheelers, while at the same time relying on technologies that can move to the market quickly, cut costs, and save owners money. Because we saw from that first round that the appetite is there, the technology is there, the ability is there. We've just got to provide the resources to turn that potential into reality. Now, in light-duty vehicles, plug-in electric vehicle sales have skyrocketed over the last several years. In fact, there's now more than 440,000 plug-in electric vehicles sold since they came to the market in the United States in 2010. And globally, we recently passed the 1 million vehicle mark. And this is all happening despite the fact that gas prices have dropped by nearly half. In fact, this past quarter, plug-in electric vehicle sales were more than 25% higher than the same time in 2015. So growth is still happening in this market despite lower oil costs. And that's in part because of the work of all of you in driving down the cost of that technologies. We're not just driving down the cost in those technologies, though, we're also supporting the owners of those vehicles through, for example, by providing information on the nearly 21,000 public charging stations on our alternative fueling station locator and mobile app. And we're also working hard to encouraging businesses to install workplace charging. Look at it. Between your home and your workplace, 80 to 90% of your charging needs can get done if we just step up in both those places and then build on that with hubs and corridors. So far, nearly 300 organizations have pledged to provide workplace charging for their employees under our challenge. At the same time, our EV Everywhere Grand Challenge is focusing on cutting the costs of plug-in electric vehicles. And as a result, we've helped drive down the costs, the high-volume production costs of vehicle batteries, to almost half the 2012 cost. Now, you're going to hear a lot about even more accomplishments throughout the day on batteries, electric drive vehicles, vehicle systems, materials, combustion, fuels, deployment, and analysis, and more. I could go on, but one thing I do want to flag before the teams get into all of that is that even there, we're not done. So today, I want to take this opportunity to announce a new Vehicle Technologies multi-topic funding opportunity. Today, we're making available $22 million to support research, development, and demonstration of innovative plug-in electric vehicle and direct injection propane engine technologies, as well as community-based projects to accelerate the adoption of light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles that operate on alternative fuels. This is hot off the presses, so, well, don't run out of this conversation to go sign up, but please make sure you get your teams geared up to apply, because we want the best ideas from each and every one here and around the nation. Now, we've made progress not just on our Vehicle Technologies Office, but also in fuel cells. For the first time in history, you can now go out and buy or lease a fuel cell vehicle from 3 different companies. Something that 10 years ago, people always used to joke. 5 years ago, people used to joke. Well, fuel cells, they're 20 years away and they always will be. Well, guess what? They're here today. That old joke needs to be retired, because the market is kicking in gear for fuel cells to catch up to battery electric vehicles as well. It's incredible to be able to see that progress. We're starting with over 300 vehicles sold or leased today, but I think we're just getting warmed up. And in fact, I know that because in the last year alone, our fuel cell R&D efforts have resulted in more than 580 patents, 45 commercial technologies, and 65 emerging technologies that we expect to be in the marketplace in the next 3 to 5 years. The pace of R&D is blinding. It's incredible. And many of you here helped achieve those results, so thank you. At the same time, fuel cell costs have dropped dramatically. And to keep up this momentum, we've launched 3 hydrogen and fuel cell lab-led consortia to foster more collaboration and more innovation at the labs, at the universities, and in industry. And since renewable hydrogen production is critical for us to get to that 80% reduction goal, I'm pleased to announce today that we also have plans in fiscal year 17 to launch a new consortium called Hydrogen, focused on renewable sources of hydrogen. But even there, we're not done when it comes to fuel cells. We launched the world's first fleet of fuel cell ground support equipment in Memphis. The Ergo Cargo tow tractor fleet now has 15 units being used in live service by FedEx at the Memphis International Airport. Of course, as more and more fuel cell cars come to the road, the challenge becomes ensuring that we have enough infrastructure. And that's why we've really been honored to have the opportunity to collaborate with folks like those in California, which already has 17 retail hydrogen stations and is on a path to 100. So I just want to thank our colleagues in California for really kicking things in gear in the United States when it comes to hydrogen. We've got to catch up where they are in Japan and Europe, where they're already accelerating. I think there's about 81 refueling stations in Japan already. When I was there back in March, there were only 42, so they've nearly doubled in less than half a year. We've got to pick up the pace so that we can have the infrastructure for those vehicles. Now, speaking of collaborations, here in the United States, we've got our H2USA effort, which now has more than 45 partners and is committed to addressing the key challenges of hydrogen infrastructure. And in fact, back here in Washington, D.C., later this year, we're going to mark the opening of the first hydrogen fuel cell station in D.C., as well as fuel cell electric vehicles that will be joining DOE's fleet so that we can walk the talk and see our technology in action. So it's clear, I think, that we're seeing major results throughout our economy. And it's not just us that are seeing the benefits. A group of external evaluators have looked at what we did. They looked at a sampling of about $12 billion of our investment, and they showed that we've already yielded benefits of $230 billion, an annual return on investment of about 20%. I'd say we've been an incredible investment, and again, a lot of that is thanks to you. Now, this is only a fraction of what we do, but I want to wrap up with a few quick notes. First, I want to focus on how important it's been, and Ruben has been a great leader on this, how focused we've been in breaking down silos in the work that we do. I think this annual merit review, combining our fuel cell work and our vehicle work, is a great example of that. And it's especially critical in transportation that we break down those silos and adopt a holistic perspective for how all of these technologies fit together. We can't just build a better electric car, a better battery, a better fuel cell. We need to fundamentally reimagine what a truly sustainable transportation system looks like. And that's why we launched the Transportation as a System R&D effort and our new Smart Mobility National Lab-led R&D Consortium. Through these efforts, we are tackling every aspect of the sector: connected and automated vehicles, smart cities, multimodal transportation, and so much more. We're exploring all of the untapped system-level efficiencies that exist in the transportation system. And through this, we're asking a lot of ourselves and of all of you. We all want to chart a brand new future when it comes to transportation, a future where we can increase mobility, increase access to levels we've never seen before, while at the same time dramatically cutting emissions, dramatically cutting energy use. It's not an easy challenge, but I think with efforts like what we've got today and what we've got underway, we have a real shot in turning that vision into reality. And when I look around the room today, I know that we're up to that challenge. So I implore each and every one of you to make the most of this unique opportunity this week. With all of the brain power gathered in this one room, we can literally help change the world. Let us know how our projects are doing. Let us know how we can continue to press ever forward. And we appreciate all the work that you've done. So thank you for all of that.